Good morning and a big welcome to the show. Now today I'm going behind the headlines of stories that have quite frankly shocked this country. My first guest, Lucy, is the daughter of Alan Henning, a taxi driver from Manchester who went to Syria to deliver aid. Have a look at this.
Start tonight with the breaking news. A video apparently showing the beheading of hostage Alan Henning has been released on the internet. The video appears to show the 47-year-old taxi driver from Salford kneeling beside a masked man in black and filmed in the desert. Alan Henning was kidnapped a matter of hours after crossing the border into Syria. It was the first time he'd stepped foot in the war-torn country. Ashley Derricott explores Alan Henning's mission of mercy.
Those who worked with Alan Henning say they saw him at his best. Yet his greatest passion also proved a gravely dangerous undertaking. It was images like these, showing the agony of Syrians in suffering, that drove him to join the emergency aid effort. Delivering convoys of supplies across Europe was Alan Henning's way of demonstrating compassion. Much more demanding than the job as a taxi driver he gave up, his commitment was unquestionable.
Now, Alan's capture and brutal murder by the terrorist group known as ISIS sent shockwaves around the world, and today Lucy is here to tell a story for the very first time. She's spoken to nobody else. I can honestly tell you, having met her, this has to be one of the bravest people ever to have set foot on this stage. A warm welcome. Lucy's on the Jeremy Kyle Show, guys. So many things I want to talk to you about. Why me? Why now? Because you haven't spoken to anybody, have you?
Because the media turns things into, they try and portray it into negative all the time, and they'll take your side. That's not what gets printed.
So today you want to put your side of this story. Your dad, Alan. Tell me about him.
He was just a dad, a taxi driver. Like, everyone calls him a hero and things like that, and he is. But I have the memories of him being a normal dad who would bring McDonald's at 4 a.m.
Sorry, you were very close. You said that he was the life and soul. He was happy, he was caring, and he was, for you, your entire world.
Yeah. I was a teenage girl and he was a protective dad, so we did have bad times, but we had a lot of good times.
I read, and Lucy, you've got to guide me really. He was well known in the community, he had Muslim friends, and they told him about the situation. And the sort of person that he was, he wanted to give something back. Do you remember him telling you, I want to give up this and I want to go and do my bit?
When he first mentioned it, I didn't know what Syria was. I'd never even heard of it. I didn't know it was a country. I don't think anyone really had. I don't know if anyone knew what Syria was. And I didn't know the dangers of Syria. So I thought it was a country shook by poverty and things like that. I didn't really know much about it at all until he came back and showed me pictures of what he'd seen.
What did he say?
He'd never seen anything like it. It changed so much. His whole personality became kind, caring.
It changed the emphasis of who he was, didn't it? The things that he wanted. He was working just basically for people here and at home with an organisation that would go to Syria and would provide aid, medicine, food, nappies, essentials. Did you know at that point, when he came back the first time, that it was dangerous?
I'd seen pictures, and he'd been to hospitals because he was travelling with a doctor. And he always cried when he told the story about the little boy who all of his family had been killed, and he was just being brought up by the doctors of the hospital. He didn't have a family, he lived in the hospital with the doctors.
And it's quite interesting that your dad, the sort of person that he was, I know that several people, you included, probably would have preferred him not to continue because there were dangers, but his mind was made up, right?
Yeah, I thought it was safe. The first time when he came back, everything was fine. He said the dangers and that he really wanted to go again. And he seemed happier. He became like he had a purpose, something he had to do. He just completely...
Almost like a calling, wasn't it, for him?
Yeah, because he was sometimes a moody man. Like a grumpy dad sometimes.
A grumpy dad.
Yeah, but he changed, like, before the last time we went, I just started college, and I was having a really hard time. Didn't really have many friends there or anything. And he'd pick me up and just take me for Nando's, but he wouldn't have done that. Before, he would have just been like, just get on with it. You can do it.
But I guess without ever knowing, because I don't, but if you go and see something like that, it does change. I mean, say every day on this show, you know, people stand there and argue and moan and bitch about all sorts of things, and when people who come on with stories like yours, you just want to go, what are you moaning about? So it's changed. The story, though, centres on the third time he went back. It was December, wasn't it? And he was going to be away for Christmas. Was that a difficult thing to handle?
It was. He asked us if we would let him go. He wanted to go. And we didn't want to say no because it became his life, helping people. It changed him completely.
What a lovely legacy, though. Can I just say that? What a wonderful thing for an 18-year-old to say about a dad, you know, he wanted to help people. That's amazing by anybody's standards. He goes again in December. You heard from him on the 27th of December. Was that a phone call?
It was a text message just to tell us that he just got over the other side of the border. And that was it for 10 months.
Now, what happened after that? Because a few days later, things changed. Are you right to tell the story?
Yeah. So, we didn't hear anything for days. So, obviously, we was worried. Everyone was texting him, like, why aren't you replying? We just thought he might have had to turn his phone off for reasons, or he didn't have signal, or things like that. When you think of things like that, you don't think kidnap.
Now, am I right in saying that the Foreign Office, and this is where this is an exclusive discussion, because the Foreign Office contacted you, the family, and said that they had had information that Alan had been kidnapped, but you couldn't and weren't allowed to tell anybody?
No, only immediate family knew. I was having a little gathering at my house on New Year's Eve with my friends because I'd just managed to settle at college, and I thought everything was looking up, and then the Foreign Office phoned, and my mum was just hysteric, like she was crying, and everyone was just like, what's going on, and then police came, and everyone at my little gathering had to keep it to themselves, and I feel bad on all my family and things, but they were the best friends.
You were reassured by the authorities and for the length of his capture, and hearing that actually just changed tack a minute, Carl. When you hear that your dad in a foreign land, thousands of miles away, is being kidnapped, what does that do to you? What does that do to your brain?
At first, because he wasn't due back anyway when we got told, I didn't really believe it. I thought they must have got it wrong. So we was just waiting for the day that he was due back, and we was waiting for him to come. And he didn't.
You believed, though, did you not, the entire family, that he would come back? There was never in those 10 months. Yes, there was a media blackout, but there wasn't panic.
No. The worst case scenario was that they'd ask us for a ransom,
and to be fair, in terms of the situation, other hostages had been taken and had been released. I'm sort of loath to ask you this because I still can't even quite believe you're talking here, but we fast forward 10 months. I mean, what happened to your dad is in itself so abhorrent, but do you want to tell them how you found out?
on Instagram.
So, take me through that day, that moment. What do you know?
I remember thinking, we've had a few days here, no news. It's looking good, because the support that everyone got, or that we got off everybody, we thought they might actually let him go. They might be scared of what's going to cause them. Yeah, so we thought, he's going to come back. He's going to come back. And then I remember I was just laying in bed on Instagram, and I just saw the final picture.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I remember just like pantsing up and down the room, because I hadn't been told, it hadn't been confirmed.
Now, what can I just so some news came out a couple of days before that, I don't even know how to say this, but one of the hostages had been executed.
Mm-hmm.
So you started following the story.
Mm-hmm.
How did you discover about your dad specifically? What did you find a video? Did you find a picture? What did you find?
Do you mean
on Instagram?
It was the final picture after the execution.
You see that. What happens next?
You just kind of go through in your head, like, whenever I used to get upset about it, I used to torture myself thinking, you don't know what he's going through, so how can you sit there crying? So I used to just shout at myself, you can't cry, you can't be upset, and think about what he's going through, think about what everybody else there is going through.
You alright for me to play this VT? Play this please, Matt.
Salam alaikum, brothers, and everybody watching.
It's nearly a week since Islamic State fighters released a video threatening to kill the Salford taxi driver. He was in Syria delivering aid when he was kidnapped.
It's all worthwhile when you see what is needed actually get where it needs to go. That makes it all worthwhile.
This is Alan as he travelled with the convoy of ambulances and aid, filmed on Christmas Day, just days before he was taken hostage. And these photos released today are of the Syrian children Alan Henning was trying to help. Alan Henning gave everything to make the world a better place for others. His sacrifice will never be forgotten.
Some legacy, isn't it? What happens in the days after it's confirmed, right?
You don't really get time to grieve and think about it, because you get loads of messages of support, which is nice, but you also get a lot of stories in the papers. I remember that we as a family asked that the picture in the orange jumpsuit doesn't get printed. It was all over the papers, so you don't really get time to think about, as much as it was sad and horrible and the things that go through your head, you think, he can't be hurt anymore. He's no longer stuck there, worrying about us.
David Cameron rang your family, didn't he?
Yeah.
What did he say?
He was just talking to my mum about my dad and just how he didn't condone what had happened.
I remember, this is a personal opinion, I remember that we talk about shockwaves. The difficulty in doing a show like this is that it's going to be straight to you because I started talking to one of my daughters. Sadly, we live in a world that's so politically correct that you have to make sure you don't say certain things. I am actually going to say something. I don't think it should matter where you come from, the colour of your skin, your religion. Any person in any society who thinks it's okay to do that is evil and is not for this world, in my humble opinion. And it's very easy to get into a huge debate about politics, religion, colour, caste, creed. No, let's get this right. Your dad, Gadget, love that, was trying to make kids' lives better in Syria, and he was executed by a bunch of evil people. And I don't know what the rest of the audience thinks, but people get so stuck on, we can't say this, we can't say that. We can say that, can't we? There are bad people in the world.
I try not to think about them. I know what happened and I still don't let myself deal with it. I try and think.
Do you feel hatred?
I think I'm still numb. I just try and get everyone to remember, like, the kids that are still there. When people say, "Oh, you've lost your dad," yeah, I know, but there's kids there that lose all the family one day, and then they're stuck there on their own. And
God, he'd be proud of you, I tell you. Somebody told me that you want to follow in his footsteps.
yeah, I was looking into doing Africa volunteer trips for a couple of weeks, 10 weeks. It's something I want to do, but I just need to build on myself first.
Have you had lots of support? I mean, messages are one thing, but, you know, real support.
Yeah. Some people find it hard to talk. I feel like they're treading on eggshells, which I do understand.
I'm going to go to a break, that's all right. We've got your cousin, Charlotte, Alan's niece, who can't even believe that you're doing this, but also has more to add to the story. I've got to tell you, I say it very rarely, but I've sat here for 10 years. Quite possibly the most impressive 18-year-old ever. I'm back after this break, don't go anywhere. Thank you very much indeed. Welcome back. Before the break, talking to Lucy here. The daughter of Alan Henning, of course, was executed by the Islamic State terrorists. I just sat in that break and just thought to myself, I've said it 3 times, he'd be very proud. I don't know where you get your strength from. I think it's incredible. Charlotte is your cousin. Charlotte's on the Jeremy Kyle Show. Give her a round of applause. You okay? Can I ask you a question? You're only 22, but
Yeah,
when you sit and you listen to Lucy talking about her dad like that,
it's inspirational.
this sounds really weird. I said, yeah, but I've got 4 kids, you know, like you sort of feel proud.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell me your side, because you were very, very, very close to Alan as well.
Yeah, we were close family growing up, so obviously it's not something that you start to accept when you hear something like that he's been kidnapped, or it's not words that you think ever would happen to you and your family, so it's just a surreal feeling, really.
When he was kidnapped, Lucy talked about how other hostages had been released and how, you know, there was genuine hope.
Yeah, we all had hope. Nobody would think that it would come to the worst. We all had the hope that he would get released, because he was the only person who was actually out there doing good things for people who needed it. And all the others were journalists, or they were out there trying to get their own story of ISIS and what they were doing and what kind of people they were. Whereas that's not what my uncle was interested in. He was interested in going to Syria to give aid, medicine and general essentials to people who needed it.
Is there, though, a better legacy for it? I mean, that for me, for you two to be sitting here saying this about Alan is incredible, because he was giving something back in his life.
Exactly. And you think that even though they are horrible people, you still think that they must have a heart there somewhere to think, this guy is doing good, so what are we doing, you know, kidnapping him?
Your cousin Lucy has never spoken before. I genuinely feel very honoured that she came to do this here today, but you told my team you feel like she's ready.
Yeah, I mean, it has been a year. We've reached an anniversary, and if she feels inside that she's ready to speak to somebody, then I think it's what she needs to do, because she does keep things in, and she is a bit of a closed book sometimes.
Lucy talked about how she saw the execution on Instagram.
Yeah.
What happened to you?
I saw it on the news. The first, I was actually at a friend's house when it came out on the news, and
How do you deal with that? I mean, what?
it was just complete shock. You don't actually take it in. It was the thought of, is that actually true, you know? And then it wasn't until we actually get a call from the Foreign Office to say, yes, this has been confirmed and what you've seen on the news is true, that you then get you just break down, really. Because it's just the news that we were starting to dread.
Did they, please, if I ask a question you don't know, was his body brought home?
No.
Never?
No.
Why not?
They just dump it. They mean nothing to him. We don't know where it is.
Have you had a memorial service, or have you?
We had like a funeral thing, and as much as we could do without a body. Yeah, we didn't have a body, so we burnt some of his things and put them in a little coffin and buried them under a stone, like a.
They didn't even release his body.
No.
The shock and devastation that the family felt. You said, which I thought was very honest. You just don't even believe that you can feel like that. You're going about your daily business, and a guy who's trying to give something back to those less fortunate is executed. Does it change your view of the world? Did it change you as a person?
Yeah, it does. I mean, you'll never understand it because we're not those people and we don't think how they think. So it's not something that you will ever understand.
What do you think of those people?
There's a kind of person who lives by instinct, by true north. Their story is our story.
So it's not something that you will ever understand.
What do you think of those people?
I can't really comment because I don't know why they act like that. It's not my place to say, but obviously they've hurt somebody in my family, so you're a bit bitter towards it, understandably, but it's not something that we get into or that we want to understand more about, really.
We don't want to make it their show. We don't want to make it about
they don't deserve them.
When people are sharing the video and sharing pictures, you might as well have just been up there with them.
You exude, I have to say, just a strength that is beyond me at 18.
Last year I was just negative about everything. I was arguing all the time. I was in bad moods. Couldn't cope with it. But I had a short breakaway with the family on holiday and I met some people who I was able to speak to them about it and things like that. And it's the first time.
Does speaking help it? What does it?
You think that your thoughts make you insane. You think that people would just think, hang on a minute. But then when you actually open up and people relate to you and they tell you their side, or because back at home people were so scared to tell me the truth that these people just told me straight.
Did it make you grow up?
When I got home I just completely changed my outlook. I'm more positive about things. I turn things into a positive. I don't like things to be negative when we could be doing something positive. We're spending so much time doing negative press about Syria. Why don't we just try and help them? Stop spending time doing stories about this and that when we could be doing something. All you have to do, old clothes, things you don't need, if you have spare anything, spare change, just try and make a difference instead of holding negativity. Because
what would you say to the people in, my God, 18, what would you say to the people who would say, yes, but your dad tried to help the situation and it cost him his life?
When my dad tried to help, no one knew about Syria. Now, everybody knows there's more people to help. Because no one was helping that country, it had to be groups going over in small charities like my dad going over. Now if we all help, we can get organisations.
Did you ever go there?
There's an academy that's been set up in my dad's name, the Alan Henning Academy, for Syrian children just on the Turkey side. And it's schooling around 400 pupils at the moment, getting them the education they need. So I'd like to go and visit.
I don't know, everybody says, oh, you're gobby, and I actually genuinely, I'm blown away by how you speak and how you deal with something. I mean, Charlotte, you said to Jim, I love my Uncle Alan more than anything and I miss him every day. He was a great man, and I think that's an amazing testament to a guy, isn't it?
We do miss him every day and we'll never stop thinking about him, and it's just nice that there are things going on in Syria that we'll remember him forever, and that the kids send those pictures of their appreciation of what he was actually doing out there.
I think he's a hero. I've said my piece about the people that did what they did, but I'll finish as I started. I think for you to come here and do this at the age of 18, to be, I mean, you're a beacon, and you are an absolute credit. I'm going to go to a break, but first of all, what about these two? Give them a round of applause.
Unbelievable young lady. After the woman whose brother was murdered over a push fight.
Welcome back. Earlier this year, my next guest, Sherry, received the devastating news that her brother Alan had been stabbed and killed by somebody doing no more than attempting to steal his push bike. The loss of her brother devastated Sherry and turned her entire world upside down. She's here because she wants to show people that Alan is not just another statistic, but is instead an incredible young man with his whole future ahead of him, cut short by what frankly can only be described as a senseless and cowardly act. Brave lady. Sherry is on the Jeremy Kyle Show that way. I said to a young lady this morning, why here? Why do you want to do this?
Because I want people to know who my brother was, what type of person that he was, and I feel that doing something like this would.
He was 15 years of age.
Yeah.
Can we talk about this day? Because actually, let's start. What sort of kid was he growing up? Was he?
He was a cheeky chappy, you know, typical 15-year-old boy. You know, like more to.
Were you close?
Yeah, like super close. Like, you know, like unbreakable bond we had with each other. I mean, he was my only brother. I now have an 8-month-old sister. My mum was pregnant at the time that it happened to my brother. But yeah, we were so close. Like holiday.
Did you look out for him? Did you clip him around the ear and everything? You were the big sister,
yeah,
right?
You have to when you're the older sister.
He was, and I want to make this point. I read this morning. He was not associated with a gang.
No.
He wasn't. He was just a 15-year-old who would ride around with his mates, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what he would do.
Had he ever been in trouble?
No, nothing at all. No trouble at all. I mean, trouble with mum and dad and me, but what 15-year-old isn't?
Yeah. So looking forward to that. Explain to me the day in question. Tell me the story from your point of view.
Well, I was meant to go out for some drinks with a friend of mine. I don't know what had happened to it, but something happened that night where we didn't plan on doing it. I then went and had something to eat with a friend of mine, and the girl who I'd actually phoned, who phoned me, she was the one who I was meant to be going out drinks with, and she had said that she got a phone call and said that my brother had been stabbed. First of all, you just think like, oh my God, like, what can I do? I need to get down there. 10 minutes later, she phoned me again and said you need to get down there as soon as possible. Apparently, it's really serious. So jumped in the car with my friend, got down there as soon as I possibly could. By the time I got down onto Copenhagen Street, which is one of the turn-off from where my brother was stabbed, I saw a police officer, jumped out the car, saw a police officer, ran up to him and said, "That's my brother." He looked shocked because obviously you're not going to expect like the sister to walk up to you straight away and be like, "Oh, that's my brother." Ran under the tape, and I had police officers coming in at all angles to try and stop me from running up there, and then calmed me down as well as much as they could possibly try and calm me down.
We have some VT.
Yeah.
Are you all right for us to play this?
Yeah.
This is it CCTV footage? This is of her brother simply riding down the road. You'll see the attack. You'll bear in mind that he then carried on riding as if nothing had happened and went round the corner. It happened so quickly. Are you all right to play this?
Yeah.
Have a look at this, people.
So that's him at the front. See, some people might not have even noticed it.
They were trying to nick bikes. So they've nicked the bike. He was in the sleeveless t-shirt. Yes.
That's the one. He was the one who done it. Who's jumped on the back of the bike now. That was him who done it to my brother.
And you saw him just come out, and he literally stabbed in there.
Yeah.
And again, they punctured his lung.
Yeah.
And he got round the corner.
And he ended up carrying up that road that he was on and collapsed outside the swimming pool. And then that's where he was being worked on.
The guy that was charged with his murder, how old was he?
He was 18. Oh, he was 17. Well, he just turned 18.
He was given a life sentence with a minimum of 21 years. What has this done to your family?
It's torn us apart. There's just no words to describe the pain that it's caused us at all. It's unbearable. Even to have to sit here. Sorry.
I can add something to the mix here. The piece of scum who was eventually done took himself to a police station, not to admit the crime, but to try and wiggle his way out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So apparently there was rumours on Facebook that he was the one who had done it, and he had been to the station to not hand himself in, to clear his name.
Will your family ever get over this?
No, never. I mean, because he's been given a life sentence, but it's not just a life sentence for him, it's a life sentence for us as a family as well.
It changed you as a person?
Completely.
Anthony is your partner of 3 years, your fiance.
Yeah.
Let's get Anthony on the Jeremy Kyle Show. Give him a round of applause. You've been with Sherry 3 years. You were and are part of this family. What have you seen? What has it done to them all?
It's devastating. You read it in the papers, you see it on the news. You sort of pray and hope that you never have to live that experience. And then one day a phone call can just change it. Change
you did loads with Alan, right? I mean, he was a great mate of yours.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when I first started seeing Sherry, he was a little chubby 12-year-old boy growing up. And I watched him grow into a young man with, like you said, a bright future ahead of him, his whole life ahead of him. It was just so tragically cut short.
What about the sentence? Life?
I mean, I think the justice system in this country, obviously 21 minimum years. By that time, me and Sherry will be 44 years old. Kids, family, mortgage, house. We'll be able to have lived our lives, being able to go on holiday, got married, finally sort of settled down and have kids. And obviously he won't be able to experience the things that we will in life. He's going to be in prison, in a cell, for the majority of the time.
Good.
It doesn't bring comfort, because at the end of the day, nothing will bring back our Alan. Nothing will. No amount of sympathy, no amount of words, no amount of sentence. It's just important that we keep that memory alive. We don't live in, like you said earlier, sort of anger and upset.
How'd you keep his memory alive? This, obviously, but
yeah, we're doing lots of things like this. We're also working with a friend of ours who's going to help us to get trained up and to go into schools and educate like children and everything.
Well,
like that
this lady who I know you're talking about is going to join us now, and I met Caroline, who's the CEO of an anti-weapon charity. We do another show called Car Files, and we did one on knives last year. She lost her son, and she dedicated her life to focusing really on knife crime, and is an incredible lady. Caroline's on the Jeremy Kyle Show. Give her a round of applause. We met before. We've had many discussions, you and I.
Yeah.
Another tragic loss, right?
Another one, unnecessary. Yeah.
Your view for people who maybe didn't see Car Files, your son lost his life. Briefly tell us that story.
He didn't lose his life, he was murdered, Jeremy. 17, A-level student, private party, gate crashed, stabbed 3 times, hit over the head with a bottle and stabbed through the heart. Been there 5 minutes.
Not in a gang, not carrying a weapon.
Not in a gang.
Catch the bloke that did it?
Yep, he was 17 at the time.
How long did he get?
He got 17 years. Had it been 2 weeks later when he was 18, he would have got 21.
How do you get over something like that? How do they get over it? How do you? This charity is an amazing organisation. Is it bringing people together and fighting for justice? Is it trying to change the laws? What is it?
Yes, we are. We've managed so far to teach over 40,000 children the dangers of weapons. I, as a mum, taught my son how to ride a bike. My husband taught him how to swim, how to save a life, how to respect people. And yeah, it's hard parenting. The easiest thing to say to a kid is, yeah, do what you want. The hardest thing is to say no. So he was brought up. He was brought up on that way. So now, with the charity, my main aim is that nobody has to go through a life of what we're going through.
And you said to our team as well, Kaz, the brave young lady, right?
Extremely brave young lady. A fantastic brother she had. And yet another innocent life, not a gang life. These are innocent kids that are being threatened with weapons and killed.
I mean, that video footage, I don't know about the audience, was absolutely shocking. He's just riding a bike down a road, and the road jumps out, stabs him in the heart, tries to nick his bike.
Yeah. As a mother, I should have taught Jay the awareness of there are weapons out there that can kill, and that's what we're fighting to go on the national curriculum so that every child in this country can be aware of the dangers that are out there. It's our responsibility as parents to look after our children, bring them up, and everybody's got to join together on this. This isn't going to solve itself.
Bless you both. Thank you so much. My love to your family. Kaz, stay there as well. Thank you very much again. After the break, another brave woman with another shocking story. Welcome back. My next guest today, Ursula, is here because she remained a silent victim of abuse until just 2 years ago, when she reported her uncle to the police for abusing her when she was a young child. Now, Ursula says that for years she tried to keep the abuse she suffered bottled up inside her. However, she realised this was impossible, and eventually she was brave enough to go to the authorities. Now, a few weeks ago, he was sentenced. Today, she says, the final part of the process to tell her story. She's in the green room. She's very nervous. Big day for this lady. I think it's easy to sit in shows like this and just imagine people can come out and speak as candidly as they can. But for somebody who's been through what she's been through, this is a major, major step. So let's just do this as nice as we can. Hi, sweetheart.
Hi.
You're right.
Yes.
Thank you for this. I always start parts like this with the same question because for me, I guess it's important. Why? Why here? Why now? Why talk?
Strength. Strength from family, from friends, from just people around me. I've been blessed with good friends, and everybody supported me enough to just say, right, enough. You've controlled me long enough.
Now let's talk, if we can, about this story, and it is awful, but for you, as I said out there, it's the last piece in the jigsaw, really.
Yeah.
Are you okay to tell us?
Yeah, sure. I mean, never met my mum. She left when I was very, very young. Well, newborn actually, but and I lived with my dad. And
do you have any nice memories of being a kid or not?
Oh yeah, I have quite a few, but the more of friends, like things like disappearing onto the golf course, which was opposite my house at midnight when we had the Indian summers, and you know, everybody was out looking for us, and me and my best friend sat there in the middle of the sandpit digging.
It's a bunker.
Yeah, well, no, it was a sandpit to us then.
Yeah. Let's talk about this situation. Your uncle. Do you remember the first time?
No. I don't have very many memories of when dates, etc. Only one I can link to when I was around 7. We'd done a thing at the care home opposite the school where we'd all dressed in red, white and blue and supported the British troops, etc. And a couple of days after that, I remember being in my bed at night, and and as soon as the bedroom door went, I knew what was coming, and I just curl up in the fetal position, and I'd just climb into bed and say, "Shh, I need a cuddle."
I know I read this and I've heard this so many times, sweetheart, and I guess for me, and I mean this, I don't want this to sound wrong, the act of abuse is so vile and so abhorrent to anybody with any morality. But when you hear an adult basically saying to a 7-year-old, don't say a word, you won't be believed, you'll be hated, you'll be ostracised. Do you get me when I say that? That's almost, that's complete manipulation, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've got children myself now, so I understand completely what he did to me. But at 7, you just believe what the grown-up was. It was constant. I was never safe at all, even when he moved out. I tried. I told a couple of adults when I was around 14.
So for 7 years you suffered in silence, thinking what? You knew it was wrong, but you were scared of the repercussions, or what?
Yeah.
And we can't get into too much detail, but I know from reading it that when you told people, a couple of people, it was sort of...
It was a threat of being taken away from...
So it was swept under the carpet?
It was just... leave it at that, because if you say any more, you're going to be taken away. You're going to be.
That's high on my hatred list as well. I think that's, if a child, an innocent child, is brave enough to admit to anybody. You suffered for years. I want to bring it to the point at which you've rebuilt your life. You've got kids. What made you suddenly go, do you know what? This piece of vermin's going to pay for this. Why were you able to finally speak out? What inspired?
Well, I hadn't seen him for a long, long time, so I just pushed it to the back of my mind. He affected me, obviously, in different ways when I didn't see him anyway. Things like shutting doors. I don't like doors closed, and things like that makes me very nervous. So when my dad passed away, unfortunately 5 years ago, I just felt like that was the right time for me, because there was nothing else could hurt me.
Did you ever think you'd have the courage to go to the authorities?
No. Even when I did it, the day that I did it, I sat in the police station, and I was giving video evidence, and I can't believe I'm here. Why? What are you doing?
You're 40.
I'm 40, yeah, and I was 35.
You went to the police, you gave the evidence, he was arrested?
Yeah. Last January, I went to the police. He was arrested a week later and released immediately on bail.
You spent a lot of time, it's really important for the cameras, he spent an awful lot of time saying he was not guilty and this was in your mind and all of that, and then I think at the point of trial he changed his plea to guilty, didn't he?
On the day of the actual trial, when it was due to start at Minshall Street, yeah, he actually... We didn't get as far as getting into the courtroom. I was sat in the victim support room, and the barrister came down.
I think most people who know me and most people who watch this know that the next sort of couple of lines I find most difficult, but apparently I'm not supposed to say anything. Your uncle, what's his name?
Michael.
Was charged with... Actually, give me his full name.
Michael James Bowie Williamson.
Michael Williamson was charged with 11 counts of sexual assault on a minor. Charged and found guilty, ladies and gentlemen. And he was given 32 months in prison. Do you regret doing it?
Not at all. Absolutely not. It feels like I've put that bit behind me and I'm ready to heal.
I really admire you for doing it. I know that in terms of your relationship, your husband is Andy.
Yeah.
It has affected the relationship. I've got a statement from Andy. I've known her for 10 years, and ever since what happened to her in her past came out, I've seen her transform from a bright, bubbly woman to a shy, withdrawn shadow of her former self. I've tried to be there for her, but her struggles, it's impossible to understand what she's been through. Our physical relationship disappeared to the point where she's run away before, and I simply put my arm around her. Despite this, I have done what I can do to be there for her. I love her more than anything, and I want her speaking out about the horror that she went through to be the first steps into becoming that bright, bubbly girl once again. In essence, I want my wife back.
Yeah.
It's weird to read that, because I would have thought when you nailed this piece of whatever, that would have been... Do you not talk to Andy about it?
I didn't want to tarnish the relationship. I didn't want to make it dirty.
You know the only thing that's wrong with that, and I've got no right to even say that to you, but I will. You're judging him, and I should think your view.
No.
Well, because he wants to be there for you.
Yeah, no, it's not him. It's me. I still feel dirty. I still literally scrub my skin sore. I bath twice a day, sometimes 3 times.
You're keen, are you not, to speak in effect through this to victims of abuse and tell them do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had people come forward and say, I've done it and I understand what you're going through, and good on you for coming forward. I've had people say I wasn't believed, I don't know how to deal with it, and I've said, you know, if you want to contact me and talk to me, then absolutely fine.
Does that help you as well in a way to think that you're not?
I'm not alone.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one.
One thing that I absolutely promise you, and we will facilitate this straight away, is that Graham has done a lot of work like this, and this is not a process you can go through on a television show. This is a process that must be gone through. We will provide that for you. It is essential that you get that help. And you know, these sorts of stories, what can I say? Everybody knows what I think of people like, what's his name again?
Michael.
You are amazing to be here. I'm sure telling it and doing it on the one hand was good, but on the other hand very difficult, and how that's impacted on your life. But Graham will definitely help you, and we'll support you as best as we can. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to sit here with Ursula. Thanks for watching today. We'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye for now. You all right?